for the two seats. Wind.
Oh,
Cool. Jason Leonce and got turned out. Peter Holder got turned out.
All right, we're ready to get started. First on the agenda, the budget.
Right, so I apologize. The first look you have in the budget section of Word docs, you actually, I've attached the second look, which is in the budget section of our regular meeting, so you can find it in there, but I'll load it up on here as well.
Sure.
okay.
Okay, so this represents our second look as we inch closer towards April. So once again, a lot of this is going to be a review of our process and then just a few additional pieces of information that we received this last look in February. So once again, our budgeting process focuses on our strategic plan intents that we are presently working on around academic excellence, innovation, and well-being. The board and superintendent goals, which underlie our efforts here. Our community schools program to be a source of invigoration for our community. Continuing to maintain the programs that make our district special. Providing department leadership and planning opportunities for our leaders. And also realizing efficiencies whenever possible while maintaining quality and across the district. So our budgeting process, we are midstream here and revising all our known revenues and expenses, and that'll allow us to prioritize the decisions that it intends to make prior to putting the issue to the ballot. So when we look at our second draft highlights, we're looking at
Click on that on the far left of that box of people.
yes.
That short little thing.
This guy?
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Cash. So total budget for next year of $21,746,584, which represents a 3.99% increase. That is a slight adjustment from our previous first look. Our property tax levy at 3.01%. State aid pretty much remaining flat since the last look we had at this budget. Federal aid also remaining flat. And then the total estimated amount of the tax cap at 3.01%, an increase of $501,580. So that's where we are at presently in the process. Mr. Wood, you want to contextualize any of these changes before we look at the categories?
Sure. The total budget, if you remember from the first work session, it was 3.91% increase for a number of $21,730,429. So there's a difference from the first session to the second session of $16,155. Went up to. Same thing with the tax levy, sitting at 3.01%. The first go around, it was 2.77%. That's a difference of $38,966. Why that is, why it increased, if you remember the last meeting, or the budget hearing, and then the last meeting, one of the big unknowns we were still working on was cost plus. So that has now been factored into our exclusion portion of it. So really the big change there is really tied to how much more we are going to be paying next year for our buses. It's gone up in terms of everything. And being that we're leasing or any type of just like that, it's rates. So when the rates are higher, we're going to be paying more. I found that when I got the figures from the bus amounts, you know, we're leasing 5 years, and it was almost by the time the 5th year was done, we were almost paying. I think we bought it out of pockets. However, if we did an installment purchase over those 5 years, it was still more. So we were paying more than, you know, just like we take out a car loan, we pay interest on that. So that's really the difference there with the tax levy. So that increase, so that we're going to maximize our levy this year after 2 years of it remaining flat. This is a year where, and going forward, we're probably going to look to maximize our levy. But that's really the biggest difference between the last session and this session to the budget figures.
So our major components have still, there's incremental differences, I think on the programmatic end, Dana, right?
Well, some of it would be in the, yes, program because transportation. So that's probably where the increase is. And again, it's a slight increase when you're looking at a $16,000 difference. It probably didn't even push the needle, but a percent or two.
And our percent of budget still dominated by programming, which obviously is what we want. 80% of all revenue being put towards specific student programming. And we have our administrative side at less than 8%, and our capital expenditures and debt service at 12%.
You know, when I look at that, you're looking at almost 93% that is directly connected to the function of the schools, maintaining the facilities as well as programming as Tim just mentioned. So, the administrative, that's administrative salaries, and things like that, district, so you're sitting at less than 8% there. We're spending the money where it should be.
And then our knowns and unknowns. Dana, do you want to fill in the ones that we've been able to highlight as knowns since our last meeting?
Yeah, the only difference, and we actually talked about it that same night, was the health insurance increase of 3%. It wasn't a known at the time of the documents, but for the meeting last time, it was a known, and I think I talked about that. I kind of anticipated that kind of increase anyway, so that was already built that increase. So there really wasn't a difference in numbers because that's sort of what I was hoping for.
It's still pretty low, though, comparatively speaking to.
It is low.
Yes.
8%.
Yeah. Well, our health consortium, our health plan, pretty low because of actions that have been done over the last 10+ years, have been able to secure and generate a healthy fund balance so that we can there. And in the end, that 6% increase, they were projecting a still deficit, and actually now the projection is slightly better. Equated to a push for 3%. Probably could have gone to 0% and still been 0 next year. If costs are higher than expected, then you're looking at a much higher rate of increase following the year. So try to maintain that by cutting that. That's why we settled on 3%.
Other than that, our negotiations are ongoing with both unions presently, and then it's proceeding well. And we'll have the executive budget amount hopefully somewhat relatively close to the April 1st deadline, but the legislators have indicated that immediate target date is unlikely at this time, but there are some ripples of hope in that both houses of the legislature are vocalizing support for universal meals. So that would be highly impactful for our district if that were to take place. Presently, we're looking at allocating a large portion of the fund balance to offset the cost share to taxpayers, which is certainly what the fund balance is for, but it's not a sustainable model in perpetuity. So to be able to have final meals covered universally for all students, that would be considerable savings for the district in the neighborhood of $120,000 to $140,000 out of that $1 million overage, which would be great news for us. We'll hold out hope that the executive and legislature can come to terms. Any other pieces of information, Danny, you think are?
No, I mean, right now, the biggest outstanding is the state aid, you know, and what I've been told is go with the executive proposal because most likely it's not going to go below that. That will be probably the floor in terms of what schools are going to get for aid. I think both houses full agreements of the funding the foundation aid fully and maintaining at a minimum 3% increase, which we are getting in foundation aid. So I think all three parties are in agreement with that. I suspect our state aid is not confident that it's not going to go down at this point, but if it's any increase, it's
that outstanding piece of information. As we look at our budget calendar, we really won't be getting together until April 18th. And that'll be in essence to finalize things. We're looking at fund balance to the extent from the state, which is highly unlikely, as Dana said. We can basically go in with some surety that this is going to be the levy, plus or minus very incremental amount.
Yeah, the levy I think is going to be there, the 3.01%. I don't think we're going to change that. As Tim mentioned, if there's any changes in the fund balance, I mean, we could conceivably, if universal health meals come through, shave off about $135,000 out of that line item and reduce the budget by $135,000, which also would reduce the fund balance allocation by $135,000. That's probably, you know, the option that we could do. We keep the budget the way it is number-wise, knowing that we were going to have about $135,000 less in fund balance that we would use. But yeah, I think personally, if there's an opportunity to lower it from 3.99 to something a little lower, particularly for the public, and they see a 3.1% increase, is definitely a good number. 3.99 is not a bad number in our environment right now. 6.5% is the rate of inflation, and budget increase of less than 4%.
Well, what's the housing cost area? I mean,
Right.
Factor in those kind of price increases.
Yeah. And we won't know the tax levy until August once the assessments are out. And what we've seen the last couple of years is, you know, for us, the levy amounts per 1,000 has actually gone down because the overall value of our community assessment has gone up. That's not saying that your taxes have gone down, but the value that's going up, you're in the end, you're probably paying as much, if not a little more, than what you were. But our point is the tax levy trend has been going down slightly because of our overall value.
To represent the first increase in 3 years for the public.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I think
average those
it's
together.
important we average those out over 3 years. Can't really argue with a 1% increase. These times, I think the public would be very understanding of that. And it's
2 years ago, I think the levy was $7. Last year, it was $3.86. Excuse me, $6.86 per 1,000. Ultimately, on what that overall value sitting in this spot is going up every year. Last year, value went up over $200 million. Put that over 8,000. Yeah. That's why the levy has been creeping down, not creeping up. Yeah. I suspect that will be the case. Yes. Yeah.
Well, and I think too, I think that while yes, the levy is going up this year or possibly, but I think that it's important to remember that the fiscal responsibility of the last, several years has put us in a good spot. It does have to go up because we brought it down. Our option was to increase it anyway over the last couple of years. We decided not to do that. Got to go back up. But anytime that I got compliments about it going down, I said, this time.
If you look at it too, a couple of years ago, I did a look the area, and we had the second lowest levy, and that was at $7.20. That was 2 years ago. The only community, Long Lake was the only one. Yeah, that was lower than us. Like, you look at it again, our area around us, we have Sable, our neighbor, they're double our levy. Yep, they're double our levy. Saranac Lake, they are about $3 more over our levy as well, which is the next closest school in terms of property value that we see in our area.
Any questions about any of these knowns or unknowns?
We'd like to know.
Yes, I would. We may never.
In June, after the vote.
That's right, after the vote. I'll test that. This is what's included in this proposed budget, in addition to the routine programs that we provide. School meals borne by the general fund, obviously, hopefully offset by moves at the state. Continuing to work on our professional development increase, just as we in our strategic goals for staff. Continued technology improvements entering year 3 of our tech lifecycle plan, getting boards like this into more and more of our classrooms, being outdated technology, supporting our English as a second language students, wilderness program, which is sending students out on the second trip later this week, and our STREAM program, which is providing support for 9th and 10th grade students who are looking for more hands-on project-based learning. And then 2 new buses. We looked at this last time, that said 3 buses, but we've since eliminated the large bus and are focusing on the 2 flex buses, the means to diversify our fleet. And then looking ahead, our dates, petition, April 17th, our budget adoption, the 18th. We have 2 budget hearings this year, the second in Wilmington, the 9th in Lake Placid, and the vote itself is on the 16th. Any questions about rather process?
So the next thing that's on there is the budget calendar, right?
Yeah, just the big things to look at, just once again, the petition dates. Our next meeting on the 18th is where the board will approve the final budget. We'll also adopt the property tax report card. And then coming up, we will have, Dana and I will do our community and staff presentations on the budget early in May. We'll have our 2 budget hearings, Wilmington the 2nd and the 9th in Lake Placid. And we'll be looking at the 16th for vote. And a whole bunch of minor things in there that Karen just does with ease that I'm grateful she does. Process. Well, Dan Marvin will be taking these on.
Sure. So no, with the plum. Great. So budget workshop. We just need to read through these.
Well, that's basically everything we kind of talked about through Tim's presentation. The tax cap change there in terms of 3.01%. Tax schedule that kind of gives you an estimate as to the tax levy for 1,000 and what that would be for $100,000 home, $200,000 home. Just, and then C is the proposed budgets line by line. That's every account code that we use to track our expenditures throughout the year. And then major categories, which you saw in breaking it. We got questions specifically about any budget or anything like that. I'm more than happy to entertain it. Like I said, versions. Buses, one thing we are seeing this year, and again, it's changing the line. I don't think it actually made it in there. Athletic services, it's doubling in price. Further, what we're being told is that they're actually going to be bidding for actual, based off actual amounts. If that's trainer is making $40 an hour, that's what they're going to charge. Is whatever it is that person's salary is. Before it was sort of like, here you go, it's $1,000, it's $4,500, and then they've agreed. It's reflecting true costs. The hospital is finally coming around to looking at their procedures as well. That's changed in terms of just moving money around in athletic codes. Last year, add training services, soccer teams. It is what it is. Like the deal.
So when we combine teams like the Keene or Saranac, they all take a piece of.
I think most of the sports that we combine with Keene are considered. It's Saranac Lake, it would be football. We do it for soccer. We do it for hockey. Are the two biggest sports. Yeah, they have it. I don't even know if it's considered contact for the boys, but not for the girls. Plus, the trainer comes in a couple days a week in the weight room to see students in terms of any of their ailments as well. So we don't have, for the state highs, a lot of contact sports.
So do we have to go through the hospital to hire a trainer, or can we hire someone independently with that?
We do go through the hospital, we contract with the hospital because that is where the trainers typically are. Not to say that a school can't hire an independent trainer, but most trainers around here are connected to the hospital. I know, at least the last time I heard, they still had an open spot. They can't even fill a trainer in their own position. So
I was just curious if there was.
You could, yes,
like a freelance that would have saved us money.
But it's a valuable service for our student athletes. So we'll pay what is expected of their service.
Great. All right, any other questions? If not, we will conclude. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Dan, for your work.
Thank you.
Still feed there and one.